leading foreign ministers from Europe and the Middle East are to meet in Vienna, Austria. They're discussing how to boost support for Libya's new unity government. Libya has been facing a crisis for months now, especially when it comes to the presence of ISIL militants in the country. Thousands of Italian troops were meant to go into Libya, but that plan has now been put on hold. Now the United States is planning to push for a relaxation of the arms embargo so that the government can better combat ISIL. It's expected the new Tripoli government will submit a list of requests for assistance during this Vienna meeting. Now the meeting will be chaired by US Secretary of State John Kerry and the Italian Foreign Minister Paulo Gentiloni. Well, let's get you more on that story now. I'm joined live from Cairo by CCTV's Yasser Hakim, and also joining us live is CCTV's Yusuf Geji in Tunis. Yasser, let's start with you. Firstly, what are Egypt's hopes for this meeting on Libya in Vienna?
Thanks, Lindy. First of all, Egypt wants to ensure that the current coalition government and the Fayez al-Sarraj to have the proper backing and the overall control of the country. As you know, there is another parliament or assembly that is trying also to assume power and in Tripoli and is sort of dividing the issue and causing a crack in the unity of Libya. And Egypt wants the internationally recognized government to have full control, to be able to control the country economically, socially, and obviously security-wise. One of the main issues as well is that the embargo, lifting of the embargo on the army, on the Libyan army, so that it can have the proper capabilities to fight ISIL, that has more weapons and is better qualified and organized than the Libyan army. So those are two of the main issues that Egypt wants to achieve in this meeting and hopes that the international community would go for.
Yusuf, let's bring you in here now. Of course, Tunisia and Egypt are both neighbors of Libya, but over the past few years, they've had some rather different approaches about what to do when it comes to the Libyan crisis. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Tunisia and Egypt are both affected by the crisis in Libya, and they both have a common interest in seeing a stable Libya where there is more security. And both countries have been supporting the UN-backed government and the Libyan political agreement signed last December. However, Tunisia has been trying to position itself at the same distance from the various Libyan political actors, and it went to the point actually of setting two consular representations, one in the east and one in the west, even though controlled by different political groups. However, Egypt has been engaging much strongly with the troops of General Haftar in the east, and it went on to engage in airstrikes in Libya, as well as breaking the embargo by delivering military equipment to General Haftar troops. So obviously this is a very different approach in terms of interventionism within the Libyan crisis.
Well, let's go back to you, Yasser. As we were just hearing, of course, Egypt has been quite involved in a militaristic capacity. And one has to wonder just exactly what's the way forward for Cairo when it comes to battling ISIL in Libya.
Yes, as Yusuf said, Egypt has been more engaged militarily, but not just through the military intervention, but also through providing intelligence training, intelligence information training to Libyan soldiers, and as much as possible some kind of assistance, technical assistance to the Libyan army. Now, going forward, Egypt is pushing, and it has before at the UN Security Council, for the lifting of the embargo. It has before tried to form some kind of an international military coalition to interfere with the Libyan army to crack down on ISIL. Now, at this point, Egypt has not reiterated this demand and has not gone as far as saying that it will intervene again using any kind of military force at this point. But it says that it will continue to provide the assistance to the Libyan army, whether technical intelligence or training. And if there is an international coalition, Egypt might be taking a part, just like it has done with Yemen, the Yemeni issue as well. So we expect, only in the case of an international coalition, that Egypt would interfere with a military force, maybe an air force or something. But until now, it will not go as far as intervening unilaterally with a military operation from the Egyptian land.
And Yusuf, of course, another major concern when it comes to the Libyan crisis is people smugglers that have been using Libya as a staging ground for desperate migrants and refugees. Just how willing is Tunisia, how willing is the country to work with Libya and Europe to help stop the crisis once this unity government has more control?
Well, indeed, migration is one of the main problems, particularly for the EU and EU countries when it comes to Libya after security. And they have a very strong interest in solving this problem and stopping the migration influx going into Europe. Tunisia has a very strong ties with the EU and will try to help achieve the objectives of the EU in any possible way. Tunisia also has very strong ties with Libya. The Tunisian Prime Minister was there only a week ago. Several meetings are happening in Tunisia when it comes to the Libyan crisis. So Tunisia's support is very strong to Libya. However, EU countries have been proposing as a solution to the migration crisis is that another country would host the refugees who are going from Libya and then returned back. So this other country could be either Tunisia or Egypt, and that's a red line for Tunisia. Tunisia said openly that it doesn't have the capacity to actually receive the migrants who are coming back from Europe. But otherwise, in terms of expertise and knowledge in how to run operations to stop the migration flow, Tunisia is fully engaged with Libyan authorities to share this knowledge.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much to Yusuf Geji live for us there in Tunis, and of course Yasser Hakim speaking to us there from Cairo.